Now, it's been said that patience is a virtue. For me, it's a way of life. In my room, there's a faucet that drips. All day and night, a slow, melodic drip. When I'm having a conversation, the faucet drips. When I'm watching TV, the faucet drips. And when I'm trying to sleep, you guessed it, the faucet drips. And even when I'm dreaming, when I finally make it to Scarlett Johansson, the faucet drips. And then I wake up. Now, I used to not to have to worry about patience. I was 6'3", and at the time, I was 416 pounds. So I would always get respect. People were intimidated by my size. Now, I've always been jovial and lighthearted, but I was never put into a situation where I felt like I had to bite my tongue or take a back seat to any other man. I am the oldest of 5 boys, so I'm kind of used to running the show. Now, the human being that I loved and I had the most patience for was my granny. All my life, I grew up with my grandmother and my dad. I had all the patience in the world for my granny. She could do no wrong. Now, 3 times a week, my granny would have dialysis treatments. She would have to wake up at 6 to be picked up by 7. So every day, I would wake up at 5:30 just to cook her breakfast. Bacon, eggs, oatmeal, and toast. And every evening, when she would come back, exhausted from her dialysis, I would make sure she had something hot and ready to eat before she had to take a nap from that pure exhaustion. I felt like it was my turn to tuck her in. Now, on December 28th, 2008, my granny asked me did I have any food when I returned from visiting my mother for the Christmas weekend. I told her I didn't, but when I put my luggage away, I went to surprise her with some Burger King. The Whopper Jr. was one of her favorites. So, buying her that Whopper Jr. was the last thing I remember from that year. During that trip, I was involved in a near-fatal car accident. I was coming through a green light when I was struck by an SUV carrying 5 individuals that smashed into my driver's side door doing 60 miles per hour. As I lay helpless in that twisted heap of metal and fiberglass, the 5 individuals fled, leaving me to my fate. I died at the scene. I was freed from my vehicle by first responders and rushed to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, I was revived, but I wasn't out of the woods yet. Upon arrival, when I got checked out by a team of doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals, they found a blood clot at the top of my spine. A decision had to be made. Did the doctors fuse the vertebrae in my neck, give me a chance to survive, or did my parents let them pull the plug? Now, in hindsight, I hope this was a no-brainer. You know, because I like life. It's pretty nice. Jokes aside, I'm sure it took great patience for my doctors and nurses and my family to be sure that they were making the right decision. And sitting here today, they did. I was alive. I went from Burberry construction worker to being paralyzed. I had absolutely no idea where I was. Nothing in life could have prepared me for this event. The only thing I could compare it to was being a baby all over again. I had to be fed, I had to be bathed, and I was back in diapers. No. And I couldn't speak. The only way I could communicate was with rapid eye movements. Left and right for no, up and down for yes. I couldn't move any of my limbs. Now, I woke up around January the 12th. I know it was the date because that's when Tom Hanks landed that plane on the Hudson River. I think they called him Sully or something, whatever that means. Now, my grandmother around that time was frantically looking for me. It's like she knew something was wrong. My father and my best friend couldn't bear to tell her the truth, but she knew. One day, she said, Albert is in the hospital. That March, grief took her from me. I was in the hospital. This was in June. They didn't want to tell me that she passed away because they feared I would have a setback. So I was in the hospital, and my dad came to visit me. And I said, hey, Dad, how's Granny doing? And he looked at me real somber-like and said, well, Al, Granny slipped away. And my reaction was, first I was laughing, then I was crying, then back to laughing, back to crying. It was maniacal. It was like something had broken inside of me. Now, I felt like in rehab that not being able to walk, even though I gave 100% effort, was a failure. And before I earned it, my occupational therapist was more than patient with me. Every Thursday, we would cook. There was a measuring cup attached to a device that was activated by a big red button. And when you pressed that big red button, it would rotate the measuring cup and dump its contents into a bowl. One day, my therapist wheeled me up to the counter, and with all my effort and the little wrist movement that I had at the time, I pressed that big red button. And after the cup was empty, I looked at it, and I looked her right square in the eyes, and with my full 20-year-old arrogance, said, this is stupid. Without missing a beat, she looked back in my eyes and said, well, these motions will help you one day. My recovery took place at a pediatric specialty hospital. Now, these were kids that from birth couldn't talk or walk or even eat solid food. So I'm watching kids with twice as many problems doing therapies that were 3 times as hard. So at that point, I felt like, what right did I have to complain or give up? I learned that I had to drop my lofty expectations, and it was time to start celebrating those small victories. Now, at that point, it was time for me to visit my old friend, Count Joshua. Now, I had to learn how to use a spoon. Using a spoon sounds pretty straightforward. But to use the spoon, first you must pick up the spoon. So after picking up the spoon, you would have to get the motion down, bringing your hand to your mouth and repeat. So I would first I used a spoon that was strapped to my hand. Do I use a plastic spoon or a big boy spoon? Sports be damned. Right. So I had to take the spoon, dip it into the cereal without spilling a drop of milk, bring it to my mouth, chop down, and repeat. Now, after I learned to be patient with myself, I started learning even more small victories. The small victories started adding up. Now, I know it's cheesy or cliche, but my life really did take on new meaning. It's my belief that patience, or lack thereof, guides our emotions. Patience is the thin line between an argument and an intelligent debate. Now, let me give you an example. I was in Panera Bread. Yeah, I know. I went there for the usual. Broccoli and cheddar soup, steak and white cheddar panini, and the iced caramel mocha on the side. Now, when I got to my table, it was time to attack that sandwich. When I bit into it, I noticed that they had forgotten my avocado spread, which I paid a little extra for. So I calmly went up to the counter, and I was like, hey, I just told the server, hey, you forgot my avocado spread. Oh, no problem, sir. That's the power of patience right there. She took my sandwich, went to the back, and while she was in the back fixing my sandwich, I noticed a woman who had come in that was a little ahead of me. She came back in there, bag in hand, arms folded, toes just tapping. So when the server came back out from fixing my sandwich, not only did she give me my sandwich, but she gave me a warm, delicious brownie. As soon as she handed me my food, I glanced over, and the woman who had come before me, I swear, first she was by the door. In one stride, she moved like 10 feet. And the glare in her eyes, when she cut her eyes at that server, man, it was like the stir of death. Now, you have to put yourself in that woman's shoes to understand patience. Maybe she was on her lunch break from a job that she hated. Maybe on that lunch break, she only had to wolf down her food in 15 minutes before she had to clock back in. Maybe that was the 10th time in an 8-hour day where she felt like somebody just didn't listen to her. Now, if we could be patient enough with ourselves, it's only then we can learn to be patient with other people. The golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. The flip side of that rule is you have to treat yourself as you would want to treat other people. Now, somewhere in your life, there's a faucet that drips. It's up to you to decide whether it's an annoyance or ambiance. Thank you.